Hi, I'm Whitney. This is my grandpa, Barry Trenary, and I'm going to interview him some questions with what changes in environmentalism has happened over his years. How has global warming and global cooling changed over time?
Well, I think that they have both changed because I think they work in cycles. I think that the the warming that we're experiencing right now will be followed by the cooling, and I've experienced that. I was born in '47. In the early '50s, I remember as early age of 3 that we had some really cold winters. Some of the coldest winters I can remember, and then we had the blizzards in '78, and then again in the '80s we had bad winters. And then we had some mild, for a while, and then we had the winter of 2014, which was a record breaker as far as cold and what have you. I think that there's a lot more extremes now, but I think the other thing is that with the media today, I think it is reported a lot quicker. Anytime we have a change, it's watched a lot closer by the meteorologists today. I think that the information is out there almost as soon as it happens, or sometimes it seems like almost before it happens. And I think that's been a positive thing. I think it's helped the agricultural community. I think it's helped the fruit growers on the East Coast and the West Coast. So I think there's been a lot of changes.
Has water pollution changed over time, and is there still a lot of it happening to this day?
Yeah, unfortunately, water pollution is my biggest concern. I think water pollution is probably more severe and more concerning than what it is for air pollution or global warming. I think they've got their focus in the wrong area. I think that when you look at the Great Lakes the way they are now, the algae blooms that are happening in them, I think that there's a lot of commercial fertilizers. I know they've made strides to cut down on the phosphates in the laundry detergents and what have you, and I've experienced that in my lifetime. But unfortunately, there are more people drinking bottled water today because of concerns over lead or over pesticides or over herbicides or what have you than what there were when I was a child. We used to just drink the water right straight out of the well or out of the pump.
Yeah, one of the girls in my class, she actually posted on the discussion board about the Wabash River having a problem with pollution and that she was seeing dead fish and everything. It was probably
Right.
mostly because of algae, but
Could be because algae, what it does is it is a oxygen. It suppresses the oxygen to the fish, or it consumes the oxygen, so that the fish aren't able to get enough oxygen. Um, the lake over at Lake St. Mary's was not, you were not supposed to swim or anything in it. A couple years ago, that's an example of it. I think that people aren't as aware of it, I think, as they are of, because I think government is more issued and more concerned about what's going on with air control or with things of that nature rather than the water, and I think the water's a bigger concern.
who do you think is more responsible for pollution over your lifetime, individual people or the government?
Well, that's a tough question. I think in my opinion, I think that the government or some of the government agencies, whether it's the Army Corps of Engineers, and some of the mistakes they've made, I think when Hurricane Katrina hit, I think some of the things that the Corps had done off the coast of New Orleans and Louisiana is a good example of mistakes they've made. I think Lake Okeechobee last year in Florida is a good example of mistakes that the Army's made. I think individuals are to blame for, they used to dump things just everywhere. I mean, when I was a young person, everyone had a dump. They would put their, back then of course they were metal cans, so they would deteriorate. Now with all the plastics and the aluminums and what have you, I think it's more concerning for that.
Were there any anti-pollution programs in your community when you were younger?
The only thing we had, and it started at when I was fairly young, was to tell everyone to be concerned about their use of nature. In other words, I grew up on a farm, and my parents were farmers, and their motto to us was, "You always leave the land better than you got it." In other words, you don't want to deteriorate it. They had the Dust Bowls back in the 30s, and it was because they had tried to farm fence row to fence row. Some of that happened again in the Jimmy Carter administration. He told the farmers to plant everything they could. We need to have, which has happened a lot better in our communities, where they leave the waterways that are grassed, so you don't have the water runoff there. There's a better program with the state through the entomology of planting trees. In other words, trees can be harvested. They're a renewable resource, but we need to have enough trees to help with the weather, to help with water erosion and control, and also help with absorbing the footprint from all of the coal and what have you. They say that we're burning. The plants consume almost all of that carbon dioxide. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there are lessons to learn from nature?
Absolutely. I think the big lesson that we should learn is the one that I thought I wouldn't see was after the big Exxon blowout in the Gulf of Mexico, when the pollution in the Gulf was so severe. We thought it wouldn't be usable. The beaches or the water quality would be destroyed for many years. And amazingly, nature cleanses itself as it did in this situation. The other thing is, you have nature controlling with lightning strikes, and you have a lot of these forest fires that burn off the old brush and what have you, and get rid of it, and then you have the new growth that comes up, and you get new growth from that. Unfortunately, you also go through the mudslides and what have you in between time until it gets reestablished.
Well, thank you for your time and enjoy your day.
Okay, thanks.